we spend about a third of our lifetimes sleeping. So being such a large portion of our life, it's fairly important. And you just can't live without sleep. I think I've heard of some yogis that need about an hour's sleep or something. Most people can't do that. So it's very, very important. So it's something we should encourage in order to generate good health.
Right. So how does that work with Chinese medicine then? What sort of things can someone look out for to improve their sleep, to have better overall wealth and well-being?
So from a Chinese medicine perspective, we can look at it from several angles. So the most important thing is that we say the spirit, or the shen in Chinese medicine, goes back to the heart to be nourished every night. It's our shen is like our connection to the greater consciousness. It's our reasoning mind. It's our self-consciousness. It's our connection to other people. So, having good shen allows you to have good reasoning capacity, so you have intelligence, allows you to express yourself towards other people and to understand other people. So if your shen is in balance, you are generally well in your emotions. The heart is where the shen resides. So it's really, really important to make sure that your heart is in good order, and to nourish it by sleep every night.
Wow.
So there's other things that nourish it. So the heart and the blood are intrinsically related. So if your blood is weak, the shen cannot go back to the heart and live in the blood at nighttime. So if you're blood deficient, you won't be sleeping. So it's a multifaceted understanding.
Never used to value it as much in my 20s as I do in my 40s. I now know its value. So talk to me a bit about the effects of not establishing a good routine where you have a regular sleep pattern.
So if you're having poor sleep or irregular sleep, your spirit or your shen cannot go back to be nurtured and nourished every day,
right,
in a 24-hour day cycle. So that would have very strong effects on your capacity to think and to be kind of rooted in your emotions.
Yep.
There's torture, there's sleep torture, deprivation tortures that has been used in some
That's true.
concentration camps. So really, you really need to have that in order to feel good about yourself and to feel calm and so on. Sleep is so important. Not only just for your sense of wellness, but in the Chinese calendar, in terms of the 24-hour clock, the energy moves from different organs throughout the day. For instance, midday is the hour of the heart and the small intestines. So the energy goes to those organs during the midday. Well, at nighttime, between about 11 and 3, they go to the gallbladder and the liver.
Oh, wow.
So if you're constantly awake between 11 and 3 a.m. in the morning, the energy is not being routed to those organs to be nourished. So, you want the energy to circulate throughout the whole organ system every single day in order to replenish each of the organs, because it's like, if not, then there's a loose cog in the wheel. Something's not really turning correctly. And so your body will eventually have those obstacles it must deal with in order to feel well.
Many years ago, I watched a short documentary series on the health benefits and the health risks of having either no sleep at all or irregular sleep patterns. And as part of the test case study, they grabbed 4 individuals and had them in a small apartment and made them stay up for 48 hours to study them and what the results would be on their body and their physical well-being. And 3 out of those 4 people, from staying awake for 48 hours, developed very low stage diabetes. So enough to revert the changes because it was only over a space of 48 hours. But that really stayed with me. And I only watched that several years ago, and it did stay with me because it suddenly occurred to me that, you know, you've just mentioned there that nighttime, I mean, those organs play a big part in insulin, don't they? Around the gallbladder. And
absolutely. The
they're not
liver is
restoring.
absolutely critical,
Wow.
actually, in modulating insulin production
Right.
and so on,
Yeah.
which people forget. People all think it's the pancreas.
Yeah,
but
right.
it's actually the liver. Yeah.
So if it's not getting its rest, it makes sense, this sleep study, why these 3 out of 4 individuals then developed low stage diabetes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you know, we're talking about how the energy goes through all the organ systems throughout the day. But there's so much research that's not only in Chinese medicine, it's also in Western medicine, about the need to have regular sleep hours and all the stages of sleep. So I think we briefly talked about the frequencies of your brain.
Yes.
When you're in conscious waking mode, you're in beta. Your brain waves are operating in beta brainwave frequency, which is pretty much intense and, you know, lots of wavelengths within a short area. And so as you go into alpha and then theta and then delta, the brain waves are slowly becoming longer.
Right.
So when you're going to sleep, you're going through the phases of going from high, you know, beta, which is our conscious waking state, into alpha, which is very relaxed, into theta, which is when we start going into non-REM sleep. And there's actually 3 phases of non-REM sleep, of which delta is the 3rd phase of non-REM sleep. And then we go into the rapid eye movement, which is REM sleep. And then we dip down into, you know, delta again. And then we do a few cycles of going from delta into rapid eye movement. And then eventually we get less into the delta phase and the REM phase, and eventually we wake up. So getting that whole cycle of brain waves is actually crucial because, for instance, in delta brainwave frequency, which is really deep sleep, it's kind of almost like where we're, you know, if someone wakes you up in that kind of state, you kind of don't know where you are, you don't know
what you're doing.
It's very hard to wake up.
Very.
So that's kind of, you've been in delta brainwave frequency.
Is that also considered the dream wave? That's normally when we dream.
I mean, dreams can occur, but it's more likely to occur in the rapid eye movement phase, the REM sleep. In the delta brainwave, that's when the growth hormone is produced. So we need to go into the delta phase of our sleep and brainwaves to promote healing. So if you're constantly light sleeping and never getting into delta brainwave frequency, you're not producing the hormones that help heal the body and repair the body. You know, when we're sick, for instance, people say go to sleep, go to bed early. It's so that you can go to these frequencies so that the body can heal itself.
It's funny you say that, because why is it that we always wait for this moment, such as, oh, you're not well, you should really go to bed early and get a good night's sleep? Maybe you should be doing that before you got sick, because that could be the reason why you got sick, because you're not getting enough rest.
Absolutely. And when you're sick, what do you feel like doing? You feel like going to sleep.
Oh, absolutely. That's all you want to do.
So it's like the body knows what it needs to do in order to heal itself.
Of course. So talk me through some ways that you can help sort of guide your body into a good sleeping pattern.
So firstly, I'll just talk about it from a Western medicine perspective, or Westerners' perspective. There's firstly, we need to get enough sunlight in our eyes, because that actually influences our circadian rhythm. There's light sensors at the back of our eyes that talk to the hypothalamus, that talk to the gland. Sorry, I can't think of the name, but it produces melatonin. Okay. But melatonin is needed for sleep. Melatonin brings your body level down so that you can go into that sleep. So making sure that you when you're awake, to get access to sunlight into your eyes and on your skin, will help reset your circadian rhythm.
Right.
So that's really, really important, because that will it's like a reboot for your brain.
Okay.
It's a reboot for your body system, which kind of sets its own clock.
Yeah.
So if you're constantly up between, when there's no sunlight and you sleep throughout the day, you're not getting that. So your circadian rhythm is out of sorts. If you do a lot of shift work, that's also the same. Yeah, any kind of shift work is hard on the body.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard. In actual fact, I do remember reading somewhere that they did a research study on people that were shift workers.
Yep.
And they had a high incidence of cancer and heart attacks and so on.
Wow.
Than people that had regular jobs in regular hours.
Really?
So, yes, absolutely. It's a profound effect on our body.
Yeah.
Before the age of electric lights and
yes.
I
think we've mentioned that
being
before.
Able to stay up all night.
Yeah, we've mentioned that in another video where we talk about how really we should be going to sleep when the sun goes down and waking up when the sun goes up.
Absolutely.
It just doesn't happen anymore.
So the other thing is, along the lines of the circadian rhythm, we want to have, keep ourselves away from anything that emits blue light before we go to sleep. So that includes mobile phones, tablets, computers, and so on, because they stimulate
technology.
more technology.
Yeah.
Because they actually do the same thing as sunlight. So your body is tricked into thinking that it's the daytime.
Right.
So it will be producing, whatever hormones it is to keep you awake. Serotonin is what gets you up in the morning. Melatonin is what puts you to sleep at night. So making sure that you don't have that to confuse your brain is a good start.
Okay.
Having a room that's dark is also a really good idea. So I remember living in places where the light posts outside were shining into the window. You really want to use thicker curtains or somehow be able to block that, because that will also disrupt the brain waves and trick the body into thinking it's still daylight and so on.
Yep.
The other thing is, I think they kind of did a bit of a study to see what kind of temperatures would be best for sleeping, and I think it was 18 degrees Celsius. So keeping the room at a good temperature, slightly cool, not too cold.
Yeah, which can be hard in summer.
Well, that's it. Many of my clients recently, being so hot in Sydney in the last 2 weeks, have been having terrible sleep. So if you can somehow regulate the temperature, that's also good.
Yeah.
Of course, then I'm going to talk about things like stimulants. So if you're eating and drinking right before you're going to bed, if you're doing drugs, it might not be conducive towards good sleep. It's quite commonly known that if you drink a lot of alcohol, especially as a woman, you actually have really poor sleep. For instance, I can't even watch a really kind of fearful kind of style thriller movie before I go to bed. For me, it's too upset. It just affects yourself too much that you can't sleep. So the other thing I would say is, don't engage in activities that makes you highly emotional or fearful before you go to sleep.
Yep.
Don't fight with someone.
No violence.
Before you go to bed.
No action movies. No violence. No horror movies.
No horror movies. I mean, that's if you're really having problems sleeping.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. It depends. I guess it's up to the individual too and how it affects you. I know some people who can drink coffee very late at night and they can still sleep.
Absolutely.
What's your opinion on that? I know if I have coffee after 3 p.m., it just doesn't work. So I make sure that I never have a coffee after 3 p.m.
I don't think many people kind of gauge how well their sleep is going. I mean, some people can sleep, but are they getting good sleep? So how you're getting good sleep is if you're waking up refreshed in the morning. some people take a long time to get going.
Yep.
So you should feel regenerated, and you should feel like you've had enough sleep and you want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And quit the day.
Yeah, right.
That's a good, indication as to the quality of sleep.
Yep. So, and I guess that's a very thin line too to cross, because if there are unhappy circumstances happening in your life as well, that can also drag you down and leave you stressed and probably emotionally imbalanced, which would in turn affect your sleep pattern at night because of that stress and that anxiety. And of course, that too would also make you wake up feeling even more drained, because then you have to deal with it during the day as well, but you were also dealing with it unconsciously while you were sleeping as well, like a double whammy. So how does Chinese medicine come into it then? How does Chinese medicine work?
So I just want to talk about how quality sleep can be achieved through Chinese medicine and what we believe happens when we sleep. So the Shen goes back to be re-nurtured by the heart. So the spirit, is nourished by the heart. The heart is the ruler of the body.
Yep.
So it's a ruler of the other. It's the emperor. Okay. So our heart. So if you want to see it of the heart organ from a Chinese medicine perspective and what it does, is the heart is the driver in the car.
Okay.
Okay. It makes it's the conscious. I'm going to go down this path, or I'm going to go down this path. I want to see this. I want to go down this road. I want to visit this places. It's the commander. Right. It gives the directions as to what to do and how to drive it and where to drive it and what roads you want to drive it on and what kind of experiences. That is kind of like what the Shen is. Okay. It is a commander. Okay. Yep. The car and all the other functions are pretty much the other organs which execute what the Shen wants to do. So that's kind of how you can kind of perceive the role of the heart in the human body.
Okay.
So so the heart and the blood are intrinsically linked.
Yep.
So the quality of the blood. So if you're blood deficient, you're not going to get good sleep.
Right.
And it's actually well known in Western medicine as well that if you're iron deficient, you're likely to be insomniac.
Oh, really?
So many people that are not getting good quality sleep are iron deficient. Women that menstruate very heavily and lose a lot of blood will also not sleep well.
Right.
So one of the cures for insomnia might be to take iron.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So now iron is not the only ingredient in blood. There are other ingredients as well. So from a Chinese medicine perspective, making sure you eat the good foods that produce blood to nourish the heart so that the Shen has a place to reside at night is really important.
Mm.
And it's another well-known fact that if you undereat, you're more likely to be unable to sleep at night as well.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because you're unsettled because your body's also starving. It's probably starving for something. And so how can you sleep under that state? Yeah.
People say they need to have dinner to feel satiated and to sleep better. Mm. If you're under-eating on a regular basis, not producing blood, the Shen has nowhere to go to sleep, so it cannot rest. It cannot be rejuvenated.
Right.
So then you're affecting your whole body. It's like starvation for that guy that's driving the car.
Yeah, of course. He's got no fuel for the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's fascinating. That's really interesting.